Hello and welcome to my show Indus Cuisine, and I'm your chef Basim Akhund. We're back with a new episode from the heart of Pakistan. Today's recipe is very interesting, and this recipe is basically a household favorite. When I say household favorite, it means that my sister can make it, my mother can make it, and my grandmother can also make it. So basically this recipe has been passed down since generation. The example was just a very normal one. Apart from that, even I can make it at my home. Why? Because over here in Pakistan, everyone contributes towards the kitchen and everyone is equal. So today's recipe is very simple, very easy, and the name of today's recipe is Murgh Karela. Now you might be thinking that what does this name basically mean in Urdu? Murgh basically means chicken and Karela means bitter gourd. So we're using two vegetables which shall be dominating this recipe, which are onion and bitter gourd, is also known as Karela in our own language. Apart from that, you'll be using some tomatoes and some green chilies. It's a very simple recipe. You just have to go step by step, and you have to basically make sure that you cure the bitter gourd. Why? Because it is very sour from inside if it's not done properly. So first what I'll do is we shall let you know what the ingredients are. Apart from that, you need some ginger garlic. It needs to be very fresh. Apart from that, you need around 2 cups of oil, which I shall use around 1.5 cups. But then you need some coriander powder, chili flakes, cumin seeds, salt to taste, and that's about it. So now what I'll do basically is I shall just bring a small frying pan and I shall keep it to heat. I should increase the heat and add just 2 cups of water. Why? Because we shall first boil the bitter gourd in salted water to take its you could say bitterness out. So what I'll do is I have just peeled them over here. You can peel it with a peeler just like potatoes, and firstly you should just cut them like this. Cut them in 1-inch pieces. Try keeping them equal, and remember you have to always wash them thoroughly before you peel them, and then boil them for at least 5 minutes. So go slowly and gradually. At times the bitter gourd also can be infected from inside. This one is not. If it is, just throw it away. Why? Because even if you see a single, you could say ant or worm, that means the whole piece will go bad. Okay, now what I'll do is I shall just take half a teaspoon of salt. And what usually salt does, salt basically takes the bitterness out. Apart from that, I'll take a plate which is over here, and we shall add all the bitter gourd over here and salt it first. So when I salt it, I shall just let it rest for at least 5 minutes before I add it to the water. Now the reason behind that is that the salted part will basically start pulling all the bitterness out, and that basically makes it more lighter and easier to digest. So I've salted it properly. I'll keep it over here, and now we shall do the next step. Now always keep your bowl clear, as I've always told you. The second part is to basically prepare the other vegetables. So what I need right now is I need a frying pan, and also I'm using 1 kilogram of chicken which I have soaked in water, but the water is also salted to keep the chicken very soft. Okay, now what I'll do is basically I shall just take an onion, take the root out, and pick this up and keep it on the side. Slowly and gradually it will take you a long way. Turn it around. Keep going step by step, and you should achieve the best result then only. This is done. Now what I'll do is I'll pick the single onion up and I shall transfer it to the hot pan. The pan does not have oil right now. I shall add it after this. So I've just added the onion. The pan is super hot, as everyone knows. What I'll do is I'll add half a cup of oil, and now I shall let it slowly and gradually cook in this. What I'll also do is I shall take some salt. As you can see, the salt will go on top of it, and this will basically bring the moisture out. Apart from that, as you can see, the thing is that Islamabad is a little windy, so you will have to keep the stoves on higher heat whenever you're cooking outside with a lot of wind pressure around. Okay, now this is done. Now the next step for this recipe is to basically prepare some juices. So what I'll do is I'll bring the blender over here, I'll keep it on the side, and I shall just pick up some ginger. I'll cut the ginger into 3 pieces, and then I shall just transfer it over here with, let's say, a 1/4 cup of water. So we're making a recipe which will be a partial gravy. It shall not be too saucy, too gravy oriented, but it will be a little moist and damp. Okay, now what I'll do is I shall keep this over here, give it a lid, and process it. And this is done. Now what I'll do is I shall just keep it over here, shake it up, and transfer all of the juice here. Now keep this on the side. Pick up around 4 cloves of garlic. They should be thick ones. Add around a 1/4 cup of water, not too much, in the same jug. And now process this into a fine paste also. Now as you can see, the water has come to boil. What I'll do now is I shall just pick the bitter gourd and transfer all of this over here. Shake it up and give it a lid, and now boil it for 5 minutes. This one's done. I'll pick this up and I shall transfer it to another empty ramekin over here, and now just keep this on the side and then wash it later on. Okay, now as you can see, the onions are cooking properly. What I'll do now is I shall give it a lid and let the onions get a little brown. Mix it up, pick up a ladle, flatten it out like this, shake it up, and now let it cook. So now this will cook for another 2 minutes. So as you can see, I've kept the bitter gourd for boiling. It will take around 5 minutes, and apart from that, the onions are also cooking. So we'll cook this for at least 2 minutes. Till that time, we will go for a break, and once we're back, I'll let you know what to do. But remember one thing, whenever you're doing the ginger and the garlic water, it needs to be super fine. It's not a paste, it's a water concentrated thing. So remember, this needs to be a part of this, and also it needs to be fresh. Why? Because then only you will get the perfect aroma. We'll go for a break and come back and then let you know what to do. Don't go anywhere, keep watching Indus Cuisine. Welcome back. You're watching Indus Cuisine and I'm your chef Basim Akhund. During the break, I just waited for you, and on the other hand, I basically took the bitter gourd out. It's properly boiled and I've kept it on the side. So I'll keep it over here in front of you. We can also use this as a strainer. Why? Because that's how it's done in Pakistan. Okay, on the other hand, you can see that the onions are nicely translucent. Now just mix them up, increase the heat to full, and now let them get a little brown. Okay, on the other hand, now what do we need? We need to basically start cooking this recipe. So what I'll do is I shall take around 4 tomatoes and we shall finely chop them. Why? Because we need a proper texture for this recipe. So I'll keep the eye over here in front of you, and we shall just chop them so that we get the best texture possible. Slowly and gradually, it will take you a long way. If you do not have tomatoes which are fresh, or if they're out of season in your area, what you can also do is you can basically use chopped tomatoes which you have frozen, but the fresh ones which you freeze are the best ones. Remember, not the ones that are packeted and which are found outside in the supermarkets. So always keep the size of the tomato equal. Why? Because when the tomatoes will fry for this recipe, then only you'll get the perfect result. Do not convert this into a paste. Why? Because this recipe is not a paste oriented recipe, it's a texture oriented recipe. Remember that. So I am just cutting the tomatoes in front of you and passing the knife once through it so that I get the best texture possible and I get the best flavor also. So slowly and gradually, it will take you a long way. Remember that. Otherwise, if you try quickening up the process, it will take a lot of time. I'll keep half the tomato on the side. Why? Because I don't need that. And now what I'll do is I shall just transfer all the tomatoes over here and fry the tomatoes. Now remember one more thing, that the tomatoes need to be fried till they are soft and they start breaking down. So I will give the tomatoes a high heat temperature for at least 2 to 3 minutes with a lid on, and then you will see that the tomatoes will start falling apart and getting soft. Now what I'll do is I shall just pick up a 1/4 teaspoon and this is done. Now pick up a ladle and just press it down. Why? Because each and every piece needs to get the best heat possible. This is done. Now place a lid on top and let it cook on high heat. Now till the time this is cooking, what we'll do is basically I shall pick up a frying pan, bring it over here and bring this to heat. Increase the heat to full, and once the pan is completely heated, then transfer the oil. On the other hand, over here this is ready. So what I'll also do is I'll pick up 2 pieces of green chili. I shall finely chop them. This is a little red. Why? Because it was basically not taken off in time by the harvesters in Pakistan. So slowly and gradually finely chop this. Why? Because we need to give the tomatoes a nice spicy flavor, but with the green element to it. So whenever you add fresh green chilies, you give a green element to the recipe. Remember, if you do not add the fresh green chilies, you don't get the green element. Okay, the pan is hot. Now what I'll do is I'll add a cup of oil to fry the bitter gourd. Why? Because if you do not fry it, you won't get the best result possible, and it will be bitter also. So now transfer all of this over here, shake it up and shallow fry it for at least 5 minutes. So now what I'll do is I shall just pick this and transfer it over here, and pick this and bring it back over here. Now take the lid off. As you can see, the tomatoes are frying properly. Now start pressing them down. You have to do this so that the tomatoes start breaking down also. Now we have to let this fry for at least 3 minutes with the lid on, and we have to let this fry for at least 4 minutes with the lid on. So till that this is frying, we'll clean up and then I'll let you know what to do next. Don't go anywhere, keep watching Indus Cuisine. So as you can see, I've given this at least 3 minutes and this also 3 minutes more, and now the oil has basically come up, which means that the tomatoes are soft. So now what I'll do is I shall just start breaking them like this, bring them in a corner and just split them. It is super windy and I can feel the wind in my hair. What a beautiful weather to cook in, and I hope it just doesn't rain right now. Okay, so slowly and gradually we have the best texture possible now. Okay, now what I'll do is basically I shall add a few things. I need to add the ginger water, which goes in first, and then we shall add the garlic water also. Now what happens basically is when you do it like this, you get the best texture possible and the recipe also gets fragrant, and all of these 2 things do not burn. Slowly and gradually mix it up. And this is done now. So now what do you need? You basically need to do one thing. You need to transfer all of the bitter gourd over here now. So the heat is high. Drain the oil out first, as I'm doing, and transfer this over here. Now this recipe is a little oil oriented. It uses 1.5 cups of oil. I used half a cup first and the remaining later on. Tilt it up, out, and transfer it slowly. And this is done. Now mix it up. Now keep the oil over here, give this a lid and let it cook. This has come to heat. Now what I'll do is I'll add the coriander powder, the chili flakes, and now I'll mix it up. It smells beautiful, it's fragrant. Now we need at least half a teaspoon of salt, because before we just added a little bit of salt and now we have to season it properly. Whatever you've used goes at the back, remember that. Now mix it up. Slowly and gradually, try keeping all the spices in. And now we shall add the chicken. The chicken goes in. And we shall now add the remaining oil on top. Switch the stove off over here completely. Shake it up. And now mix it. Now the color of this recipe will get darker with time when it will be cooked properly. I'm just mixing the spices in. And now what I'll do is I'll level the chicken down. Now just level it down, spread it out so that the oil basically passes through. And now we shall give it a lid. Before that we shall add the cumin seeds on top. You have to add it on top so that when they start cooking, the flavor starts integrating also. Now we'll cook this for at least 12 minutes. Until I'm just cooking, we'll just clean up and then I'll show the final look of the recipe. Don't go anywhere. Keep watching Indus Cuisine. So as you can see, the chicken is cooked properly. Now what do we have to do? Towards the end, I shall add 2 pieces of garlic, which should be finely chopped. Why? Because this will get a very nice earthy flavor to the chicken. So what I'll do is I shall just smash them, which I just did, and I shall just finely chop it by passing my knife through. This is done. Clean the blade up, pick it up, and now transfer it in the pockets over here. Now you can see wherever the oil is basically frying, I'll transfer the garlic. Now what will this do? This will give the recipe a very nice earthy flavor. Now this recipe is cooked in oil, not in water, as you can see. Now what I'll do is I shall just pick up 3 more green chilies. Now when you add the green chili towards the end, it gives a very different flavor as compared to the green chili put in otherwise. So slowly and gradually just chop it, and this is done. Now what I'll do is I shall just pick this up, transfer the green chilies, cook it for 30 seconds, which I'll do in front of you, and then I shall dish it out. I've cooked this recipe for at least 5 people. As you can see, the chicken is done. Now just shake it up and now dish it out. So till I'm gonna dish it out, you just stay tuned, and then I'll show you the final look of the recipe. Don't go anywhere. So as you can see, today's recipe is ready. Super easy, super quick, and you have to just follow the steps where I boiled the bitter gourd first. Why? Because you have to take the bitterness out of it, and then I cooked it again and then fried it. I hope you liked today's episode. I'll see you in the episode in Indus Cuisine. Have a wonderful evening, wonderful day, a wonderful weekend. Take care of yourself, lovely people. Bye-bye.